Now this video won't just be about glazing, but also things I hate about Endfield. With that, welcome to Glaze and Hate. Okay, I don't care what kind of gacha game you're playing right now. You could be a Hoyo shill or a Kuro bot for all I care. But we can all agree on one thing. Arknights Endfield is the most innovative gacha game coming in 2025. Gacha games have been stuck in a loop for years. Sure, some introduce new mechanics, and when the community loves the new mechanic that was added by a gacha game, you can bet it's getting copied in every new gacha game releases in the future, just like the sacrifice of this bald guy from Genshin Impact. Competition breeds innovation, and that's why Endfield is shaking things up. Today, we're breaking down the features in this game that you won't find in modern gacha games. Let's start with the factory. While you can gather materials by exploring the open world, you also have the option to farm them AFK through your factory. But here's the twist. It's not just a passive system. Your factory can actually get attacked by enemies, and if it gets destroyed, say goodbye to your resources. That's why you need to build defenses to protect it. At first, the factory might seem a bit overwhelming, but once you get the hang of it, it'll easily become your most valuable asset. Why? Because almost every material you need can be produced right there, saving you tons of grinding. Exploration in Endfield is completely different from what you'd expect in an open-world game. There's no gliding, no climbing. So how do you get around? Well, it's up to you. Instead of struggling up cliffs like a lost adventurer, you customize the world itself. Need a shortcut? Build a zip line and zoom from point A to point B. You're not just exploring the world, you're shaping it. And honestly, this is a huge dub, because I am never playing another gacha game that makes me climb a mountain just to run out of stamina halfway up, only to take a deep breath, accept my fate, and fall to my death. You ever notice how in most open-world gacha games, your whole party just doesn't exist? Like you've got a full squad, but when you're exploring, it's just one lonely character on screen while the rest are chilling in the void. Endfield fixes that. Your entire party actually appears while exploring, which is a huge W, though I won't lie. Some of them look like it's their first time touching grass, wandering around like lost NPCs. Still, it's a nice touch, and I hope by release their AI looks a bit more natural. Now, combat isn't just about spamming attacks. Elemental reactions play a big role here, but I won't go full professor mode. Just know that they exist and they're pretty sick. Elemental reactions are common on most gacha games, but have you ever heard about physical reaction? One of my favorites is the lifted debuff, which lets you yeet enemies into the air, then follow up with a knockdown that basically stuns them for eternity. Another thing that stands out is the art style and animations. There's this weight to every attack. It's hard to explain, but it's like you can actually feel the impact of each movement. Take this boss, for example. See how the scales on her body move? They don't just sit there like a texture. They actually shift and react naturally, making them feel like a real part of her body. I don't know how to explain it, but trust me, once you play, you'll get it. But if you're still not convinced, buckle up because I'm about to blow your mind. This game does something that no other major gacha has done before, which is no skill cooldown. I know what you're thinking. Wait, no cooldowns? So I can just spam my strongest skill until I win? That sounds broken. But hold on, that's where you're wrong. Instead of cooldowns, skills in Endfield use white bars at the bottom of your screen. Each skill costs 1 bar, and these bars become your source of energy. Once these bars are emptied, then you'll have to wait until it's full again before you could use another skill. This system gives you way more creativity in how you build combos. Instead of waiting for a cooldown timer to reset, you're in full control of when and how you unleash your skills. No more boring things like finding out the single best rotation on the character, just pure strategy. And can we talk about the character designs for a second? Because this game is on another level. Where have you seen this kind of quality in a modern gacha? Not in Genshin Impact, that's for sure. I know, I'm glazing Arknights Endfield so much right now, but have you seen these graphics? I have never seen this level of detail in a gacha game before. Let's be real, Most gacha games just slap together mediocre character designs with mediocre animations. They crank the boob slider to max and suddenly, money just starts printing itself. But Endfield? Nah, they actually put time and effort into their animations, effects, and world design. Every attack, every weapon, every little movement feels deliberate. Now that I'm done glazing, it's now time for the hating. While I did say that it was a nice innovation to be able to design your own world the way you want it to, but imagine the extreme inconvenience of not being able to climb and glide in the game. Now, I get that Enfield's world customization is cool, but let's be honest. No climbing or gliding is going to turn some people off. Instead of just running up a mountain, you have to build a zip line or blow up a path. It's unique, sure, but some players might find that a bit tedious. I personally think that the innovation is good and all, but why do we need to remove the core gameplay of an open-world gacha game? I mean, sometimes players just want to get to the peak of the tallest building in the area to roleplay. And you can't do that without being able to climb. This would definitely ruin the world exploration aspect of the game for some players. Another problem that it may run into is the same problem that Wuthering Waves faced when they first released their game. As you all know, Wuthering Waves came out buggy, which we can't really avoid since it's a newly released gacha game, but Wuthering Waves was straight up unplayable, especially for our mobile players. Now, I know it's fun to meme on players who have weak devices to play gacha games, but these are the majority of the players that are going to be playing this game. Not all players would have an RTX 5090 or an RTX 4090 on their rig. I would predict that the player base with this kind of build playing these gacha games is going to only be at 5% at best. Sure, they're definitely a huge chunk of the revenue of the gacha game since they have the money to be able to gamble on characters, but they're going to miss out on millions of dollars for the players who are not able to play the game. Also, if the player base of the game is low, then most likely players won't be spending a dime because the point of pulling for all of the characters is not just to make the game easier for them but also to flex the character's damage on their friends. This last one may just be a speculation but is a very important topic, which is power creeping. I don't mind power creeping because I think that this is important for the business to, well, continue being in business. Also, almost all gacha games have this. It's like the bread and butter of every gacha, so it's basically inevitable to avoid. But there are exceptions. The main problem with power creeping is how frequently a gacha game does it. Commonly, a gacha that rarely does this is generally loved by the community, but this does mean that revenue would be on the low, which could sacrifice the updates of the game. That's why they need to find the balance. Honkai Star Rail does this very often, leading to players being frustrated because if they don't get the new character on their first run or second run, then getting them on the third rerun or fourth may not be a good investment of their free currencies. For those who recently just got them, then when a new unit is released to power creep the old unit that they just got, they would definitely get angry and frustrated. If Arknights' Endfield is able to fix these things, then they would be able to compete side by side with the big gacha games in the market right now. What about you? What would you glaze about Arknights Endfield? Or maybe you're feeling a bit of a villain right now and are thinking of the thing you hate about Arknights Endfield. Tell me in the comments. With that, if you like Arknights video, leave a sub.